All right. So for all who are able, can you please stand and join us with the pledge of allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And Dr. Wagner, can you please let me know if there are any additions, changes, or approval of the agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the board for the guests that have joined us this evening and invite you listening from home. I don't have any changes to the agenda, Madam Chair, but I would like to let the record reflect that Mrs. Frazier has joined us for the open meeting this evening that began at 6:30. And so welcome, Mrs. Frazier.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Frazier.
Thank you.
All right. Since there are no changes to the agenda, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So move. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. All right. So next we are going to start reviewing our comprehensive strategic plan with Dr. Wagner, Dr. Bassett, and Ms. Brooke Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. We do have a brief presentation that we'd like to share with you this evening. And Mr. Johnson is here. He's working in the system for us, and we may have him toggle back and forth. When we get to a certain slide, we'd like to share with you where we have sort of redone, so to speak, the strategic plan and embedded it on the website, and we'd like for the board members and for the public to be able to see that. But Mr. Johnson, you'll forward us through, if you don't mind. Yeah, second slide. There you go. So just to remind board members and the folks that might be listening, we had a planning retreat on September 10th, and we worked with our one of our consultants from the Berkeley group, Dr. Baker, to kind of, reacquaint us with the vision and strategic plan now that we're starting the school year. And we had a great session on that day on the 10th. And we made a commitment during that meeting. We would spend time during throughout the year, but ideally during work sessions where there's dedicated time to have some discussion, where we would talk about the strategic plan and some of the goals that we have established for ourselves, and to give board members a chance to weigh in on goals and some of the strategies and some of the evidence that we might have that demonstrates fulfillment of the strategic plan. So we're pleased to be here tonight to begin this process. And one of the things that we thought we would do, at least for this evening, is start with goal one. Our strategic plan has 5 goals, and it's probably it would be a long meeting if we went through all 5 goals and talked about potential evidence, but we thought that it might be helpful to do this in chunks. And so tonight we'd like to focus a little bit more in depth on goal 1 and what goal 1 means to us as a school division, what it might mean to you as school board members, and then we wanted to share what some potential outcome measures might look like for goal 1 as they pertain to the entire division. And so we're looking forward to sharing that information and sharing some evidence of fulfillment of goal 1, as we wrap up this evening. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. This is some information that you see here that sort of speaks to the why behind some of our initiatives that we have begun, in particular this year, related to some structures or systems that we have in place to help support student achievement and to help support teachers to support student achievement. This is what you see the slide in front of you. This is a slide that demonstrates King Williams ranking among 131 school divisions in Virginia. And these are aggregated SOL results from the spring of 2024. So this is last spring's aggregate SOL data. What that means is math, science, social studies, and history from grades 3 through 12. All of that student performance aggregated in a way that comes out in a single metric. And what you see here is that as a school division, this past spring, we ranked 88th out of 131 school divisions. And in our view, as instructional leaders, we think 88 is too low. And we'd like to see that increased. And so we have plans in place that we think are well designed to get us to a point that's higher than 88 out of 131. And some of this you've already heard about, where Dr. Bassett, Ms. Davis, and some other leaders have talked about some of the initiatives that we have in place that we feel will bring us some greater success. So we wanted to present this information to the board and to the public this evening. And I have shared this information at each of the schools. I've been to a faculty meeting at all the schools and presented this information and some of my why and what I think drives our work as division leaders to try to improve student performance. I think that's our obligation. That's the reason why we're in this business, is to help all kids be successful and to help them find success. And so that's really what Goal 1 is all about in the strategic plan. But something else to look at as you look at this chart is that from the prior year, in the spring of 23, the division ranked 75th. So even 75th is certainly lower than we would like, but we wouldn't expect it to drop. And it dropped 13 positions. And we have some grade levels in some areas where the student performance has increased, and we have celebrated those and make sure that that teachers know that we recognize those increases in student performance. But when you aggregate everything together, it shows that we've dropped a little bit in performance since last year, and we want to make sure that we grow all of our student performance at every grade level, and that becomes the expectation for us as a division. So this information these data are relatively new coming out, and there's some context here as well. So for instance, there may be the difference between schools that or our school division that's 88 and somebody that's at the 80th in the 80th spot. There may not be that much difference in student performance, but nonetheless, when you stack everybody up, we are 88th on the list, and we think we can do better. It looks like the school division has been in this region for some time. In the spring of 22, the division ranked 42nd, but then prior to that, 80th and 85th, pre-COVID. And so we think that it's time for our division to kind of reset and to rethink about expectations for student learning, so that we can keep the growth that we've seen in certain areas. We can keep that growing, but we can also expand that growth to all of our content areas, and certainly those that are measured through the SOL assessments. But as you can see there, the second bullet that says over the past 3 years, the division's performance has been, roughly between 60 and 69%. And that's below 70%, which is standard in the state for minimum performance. And so, if you look back at spring of 22, that shows the school division ranked 42nd, we were still below 70%. So, there were, lots of other school divisions that were, a little bit farther behind. But even then, coming just out of COVID in the spring of 22, we were only at a 69% aggregated pass rate. So I share that context to say that there are probably lots of school divisions that are within a real narrow range of performance, but nonetheless, 88 is going to be is going to be way too low for us. And we'll talk about what our goals are for that in just a few moments. But let me pause there and see if any board members have any questions before we get to the strategic plan itself. No? I wanted to share with you that we have a revised format for the strategic plan that's now on the division website, and we wanted to demonstrate how to get to it. And so, Mr. Johnson, if you wouldn't mind toggling over to our website, let folks at home that are watching see this. So this is what the homepage looks like, and for folks that want to see our strategic plan, they need only to go to About Us, and Mr. Johnson will demonstrate that. And then the 23-28 strategic plan, and this is the one that the board voted on in October of 2023. And then we have a format that you can see looks a little bit different. It's embedded into the website. It's clear and easy to read. And Mr. Johnson, if you'll just scroll slowly toward the bottom, we can show the blue buttons at the very bottom. But we've got our mission, our vision, our core values. And we won't read all of these because the board members are familiar with these, and we worked through some of this at our September 10th planning retreat. But what we've done is we put all of the goals are accessible through this first page. And so, Mr. Johnson, if you'll just click on goal 1, and if you click on that button, it takes you to goal 1 that spells out what the specific goal is, the 3 objectives associated with this goal, and then the strategies that have been identified as ways to, to fulfill some of these objectives. And then from each of the goal pages, you can navigate throughout the strategic plan itself. And then we also have at the bottom of the page sample performance indicators. And Mr. Johnson, if you'll just show where that is, there you go. And if you click on that, this is sort of a running list of things that could possibly, help to demonstrate fulfillment of goal 1. But we wanted to share with you that this is no longer an attached PDF document, but it's sort of a living, breathing part of our division's website now that's front facing. And, I think we're pretty pleased with the way that it looks. And now we can add to this and add things like performance measures and progress toward fulfillment of the strategic plan. So I'll pause there, and then we're gonna welcome Dr. Bassett and Ms. Davis that are gonna walk us through what goal 1 looks like and some progress that we've made toward goal 1. And you're welcome to ask questions along the way. And if you have any comments, please feel free to stop us and let's have some conversation about it.
Thank you.
And so as Dr. Wagner stated, as we continue to work towards meeting our goals identified in the strategic plan, we have reviewed the goals that are currently contained in the plan for alignment to the new accountability system that the state will be implementing, as well as state rankings that we showed on the previous slide. And so the next 3 slides contain potential language for our goals that we plan to update.
See that. That's right.
That's next. All right, and so for the first measurable goal, if you look at that pertains to, it's related to the current school year, 24-25, and it indicates KWCPS will improve overall division-wide SEL pass rate ranking from 88 to within the top 65 school divisions in Virginia or the top 50%. I'm not going to read each one, but I did want to read the first goal because the 2 subsequent goals, one of them also relates to the 24-25 year, but the second one correlates to our 27-28 school year, which is the length of our strategic plan. And so if we're aiming for starting now and moving through our strategic plan, where we are indicating that we would like to, by the end of the current year, have 70% in math, 70% as well as reading math, and 75% pass rate in reading. But by the end of the 27-28 academic year, we would like for our students to exceed 90% as an overall pass rate and 90% as well for growth. one of the things that the U.S. accountability system takes into account is the growth rate for students. And so as we continue to monitor and demonstrate how it's transitioning also to providing points for the different categories where students score. And so growth is a measure that's in there. And that's gonna come up. I don't want that to be confusing. I think it may be easier when we get to that side, but we'll identify the portions that contain growth. The second measure, again, by the end of the 2027-2028 academic year, KWCPS will improve its overall division-wide as well as grade ranking to fall within the top 33 school divisions in Virginia. And so moving from at least being in the top 50% of Virginia schools to moving to the top 25% by the end of the 27-28 academic year. For the third goal, this is where, when we were talking about alignment to the new accountability system, by the end of the 24-25 academic year, all schools will achieve on-track status in the revised accountability system. Within the new performance categories, we have distinguished, which includes exceeding state expectations, on track, which includes meeting state expectations, off track, of course, not meeting state expectations. And then the fourth category is needs intensive support. And within that category, you're significantly below state expectations. And of course, by the end of the current year, 24-25, King County Public Schools would like all of its schools to be on track.
Let's pause there if we can and see if any board members have a question about any of these. Mr. Johnson, would you mind going back to the first slide? Or I'm sorry, to number 1. Right there. So here, it's my goal within, or it's our goal within this school year, is to bring King William to the top 50%. So from 88 to within the top 65. Mm-hmm. And I think it's doable. I think we need to be aspirational as a school division. And we need to set high expectations for ourselves as professionals and for our student performance. And as Dr. Bassett shared, if you look at the second sub-bullet, so 5 years from now, I'd like to see King William move from where we are now at roughly a 65% pass rate to a 90% pass rate. And I've challenged each of our teacher teams as we've worked in some of these faculty meetings. I don't even think we should settle for that. I think we should go for 95%. But I think it's important to be aspirational and to help our staff realize that there are new measures for accountability that take effect next year. We've got a snapshot for this year that Dr. Bassett and Ms. Davis will share at the very end. We've been given an opportunity to kind of superimpose the new accountability system that goes into effect next year on last year's data to show where a school might fall. But I think these optimistic goals are important. It's from the metaphor that I've used, it's a lighthouse that you sail toward. And you might not get to the lighthouse when you want to get there, but it's important to have that goal as your ultimate destination to drive us forward. And things that we can measure each year in the way that we showed you on that first chart. So Mr. Johnson, you want to go to number 2 real quick? There you go. And so this would be, like Dr. Bassett said, just to reiterate what this means, is we're in the bottom third right now with other school divisions and some that are around us that are performing lower than King William is. But I think our goal should be the top third. And I think it should be and there are reasons if we're within the top third, I mean, the difference between the 30th school and the 32nd school is probably, like I said earlier, very small. And there's lots of reasons why we might fluctuate from, within that range, but I think it's a reasonable goal to try to be within the top third or even top 25% of divisions across the Commonwealth. So we'll pause there and see if board members have any comments about that. Are we on the right track? You think those are good goals?
I think they're good
Yes.
goals and I like the numbers. But how do we get there?
Well, and we'll talk about that because we've got I think Ms. Davis especially is going to talk about some progress toward goal 1. We've seen a lot of new at the elementary level. You may hear about that from some folks that sort of are wondering why, but hopefully now you can see why. Is that 88 isn't good enough for me, and I don't want that to be good enough for anybody. So it's going to require a new way of looking at our practice and a new way of teaching and a new way of planning. And it's just going to require us to provide more rigorous instruction for our kids. So a lot more about accountability when we move through some of the slides this evening.
Okay, so we have shared with you our why, right, with 88% amongst the 131 school divisions. We've shared with you the why with our measurable goals, and so now we're going to kind of show you that the how. How do we get there, and how do we meet these goals? So 1.1 addresses instruction and rigorous academic standards. So we broke this apart in 4 different areas, starting with curriculum. As you guys have heard from me numerous times about the BLA, you can see from that, I feel our division has done a very wonderful job with implementation. It has been a heavy lift. We've adopted a new core curriculum, Benchmark Advantage. As you may or may not have seen, it is very systematic. It's been a wonderful program, but it is a learning curve. And so we are in that first implementation year. And so we have a lot to learn, but we are on the right track in terms of following the BLA and providing a systematic curriculum for reading. We've also, to help align for alignment across all content areas, K-12, we have purchased a comprehensive instructional program and brought into that consortium, which is a group of smaller divisions that work together to align pacing to new standards, provide aligned resources and rigorous resources to match the standards. So oftentimes we have found that in our instruction, we are hitting an SOL, but it's not as rigorous as the students may see on an assessment. And so our goal is now to merge those two. So not only is our instruction aligned with those SOLs, but we're matching that rigor for our students. Additionally, our summer leadership team worked together to create lesson plan non-negotiables. So if we want to see our students that alignment and that rigor in our instruction, we have to go back to our lesson planning strategies. So when we think about instruction as a whole, I like to think of it as design, deliver, and assess. So before we can get to that delivery and assessment and within a lesson, we have to start with that design process. So as a leadership team, we came together to brainstorm and discuss what are non-negotiables in lesson plans that are important for teachers to consider when they are planning to deliver their instruction. So that is one of the big, those are some of the small steps that we have taken out of the vision in terms of curriculum. Assessment. So as we have shared with you all, it's important for us to not only assess our students in the spring, we need to assess them throughout the school year to monitor their progress towards mastery. How are they performing? Where are the gaps that they may have so that we can address those gaps and help get them to grade level. Also, how can we enrich our students who are already high achievers? We don't want them to not be getting the instruction that they need either. So it's important for us to have various data points throughout the year to check in with our students and understand where they are as learners, and that allows our teachers to then plan the appropriate instruction. So I shared with you all in September about the iReady diagnostic. That's one of the tools to help us monitor student progress. We are also using quarterly benchmarks through the comprehensive instructional program that allows for us to assess students toward SOL mastery K-12. And so at any grade level or any student, any class that is an SOL related class, the IEP will provide that benchmark. Other classes that may not be SOL related, they do have some benchmarks there, but every classroom will be providing benchmarks. That is our expectation across the board K-12, so that again, we're monitoring that progress towards mastery. And then in the lower grades in elementary, the state has access to do the VALS assessment, which is gaining an idea of where our students are as readers. So that's that phonological learning, phonics, fluency, comprehension. That is what that test is at. We have just wrapped up that testing. Kindergarten is the only grade level we're still waiting for. However, that is another data point for us as a school division, fall, winter, and spring for our students. Any questions about curriculum or assessment before we move into intervention and professional learning? So as we shared, we know that we have students who may need some additional interventions within the classroom to help support them to get to make progress towards grade level or SOL grade level standards. So we as a school, as part of our student reading plans, we have purchased phonics intervention through Benchmark. So we use Benchmark as a core curriculum. They also offer a phonics curriculum for Benchmark, so that has been purchased for those who provide intervention. We are also using the University of Florida. They have a new Fly Phonics program that our special education teachers will be using. They are receiving training through our assistant principals on this program. And then we will also use the iReady lessons included to help reach our students so we can help them close those gaps and address their areas of need. And so all of these resources are what we will use to help support students in reading and math to get on a grade level. Of course, within the classroom, our teachers are always working with our students to help them show mastery. So this may also look like a small group within the classroom as well. But these are some of the resources to help support. And then, of course, with all of these new programs comes that key professional learning. We want to make sure our teachers feel confident and they understand how to deliver the curriculum or utilize these resources. And so we scheduled iReady training. We worked on it in the summer. We just wrapped up some training in the fall. They will come back to meet with individual grade level teams in October. For Benchmark, we ended the school year with some solid training towards Benchmark. Our teachers are in that implementation phase, and we are currently working with the vendor to purchase and schedule additional professional learning opportunities for our teachers so that we can support successful implementation. And then we are also really proud of our ITRT. They host the tech conference every year that offers professional learning to embed tech resources within your classroom. So we are very excited that they are gaining that interest in that. So any questions about our progress towards 2021? So this is an example as we shared one of the data pieces that we have gotten. So this graphic shows us our diagnostic data from the fall. I spoke to you on how that is measured. This graphic here shows us how King William is performing comparatively to Virginia and the national norms. So you can kind of see where we're kind of falling where most folks are falling. But you can also see where there are some areas of improvement. So that just gives us an idea of how William County is performing throughout the nation and in the state of Virginia.
Did we get all the results back for fall? And how Did it look better?
This is actually the data from the fall, but one thing that should be noted, if you look at the color chart on there, the lane on the side, because this is the one that students took in the fall, the area of yellow, it says 1 grade level below. However, because it's the beginning of the year, you would expect your students to be 1 grade level below, if that makes sense, because this is the beginning of the year in their new grade level. And so although it says 1 grade level below, it's actually where the students should be. And so as Ms. Sagan said, if you look at where King William is performing related to national norms as well as the Commonwealth of Virginia, King William is actually faring a little bit better with having 43% of the students 1 grade level below, but technically they're on grade level. And so then if you look at the 13% and the 9% that are above grade level, then those students truly are above their grade level. And so students who are falling into the red categories, the red and kind of pinkish category, those would be the students who potentially would receive additional support from either the reading specialist, tier 2 instruction, from the teacher or the reading specialist. So King William is actually honestly faring a little bit better than the national norm, but also than other students within the Commonwealth. And this because these are the fall results. And so as we transition and they take the test mid-year, we would definitely want to see the growth that students are experiencing. And of course, at the end of the year, if we're still seeing students who are below grade level, then we know that some things didn't take place during the year. But as it stands for the students who are in the kind of pinkish or red categories, those are students who would be identified to receive additional support. And one of the things that Ms. Davis didn't mention today, but she's talked about before, are the student reading plans. And so if we combine the VALS data along with the IRA data, then we know the students that will receive the student reading plans based on the diagnostic assessments that have been given. And one of the other things that I wanted to add while we're still on this slide, just to make sure that it's clear, our students participating with the IRA diagnostic and IRA intervention lessons is K through 8. So although it's occurring, we're kind of talking about it with Ms. Davis for elementary, it does go K through 8. So our middle school students are taking the same diagnostic as well. And so we have the same data for our middle school students as well.
So we're excited to see, we're sort of thinking fall is our baseline. And so we are hoping that with our core curriculum benchmark, with our phonics intervention, with CIPs, with all of these new resources, using these resources to support instruction, we're hoping that we're going to see that progress when we retest again in the winter. And then overall in the spring, we're hoping to see students reaching their growth goals and ready. So we're very excited about this platform and the ability to see live growth within our students.
And I'll just, I'll add if I can, it might be difficult to read from this slide. And this is information that the folks, for the public to see as well. If you look at King William and you look at the pink and the red, so that's 34%. And then if you look at the Virginia total is also 34%. And in Virginia, the small print there says that in the fall of this year, more than 105,000 kids in Virginia took this assessment. And so we're consistent, or at least in terms of lower than expected performance, we're consistent across Virginia. And like my colleagues shared, it's relatively consistent across the nation too. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we're not comparing ourselves to 40 kids down the street. It's more than 100,000 other kids. And so it's valid data, it's reliable data, and it really does give us a true picture of where we are. So some things to keep in mind as we move forward, and the term would be, we want to grow the green. You want ideally we want green to be the entire column. We would want every student at or above or exceeding grade level. And so we grow the green and try to shrink the red. That's the magic, that's the hard work. And this is the first time in probably recent memory in our school division where there has been a consistent assessment system in every classroom, in every grade level, K through 8, that allows us to compare apples to apples at the same time. And that's really important to help us, identify areas where we can, but also to identify areas where we're doing. So thanks.
I know that at the last meeting, we had it sort of broken down by school or grades. Now that fall is over, can you get that data to us so that we can review it? Thank you.
So now we're moving into question 2, which is looking at the measurable growth in literacy and numeracy. So again, our curriculum is our first step, so we're thinking about that design, talk about the resources to plan our instruction. And then when we're thinking about measurable growth, one of the things that I want to highlight here is we talked about intervention and providing support to our students who are performing below grade level. One of the additional programs that we have adopted this year is EduClimber, which will support us in providing multi-tiered systems of support for our students. And so this is a data hub for student K-12. And so what does that look like? A student, we could look up Brooke Davis and EduClimber, and it would show my progress as a student. So if I started in King County Schools as a kindergartner, and I took the VALS assessment, as I move on to first grade, I will see that student history of my assessment and see how I've grown as a learner. And then it will also help our teams look at data from a various perspectives. So we can narrow it down by classroom, by student, we can go by school, we can go through to division. And so we'll be able to pull various reports from VALS, iReady, SOLs, CIP, benchmarks, Mastery Connect. So all of the platforms that we are using and interacting within our classrooms, we're going to be able to pull the reports using this hub for students. It also helps us track not only academics, but we can also look at this from a behavior standpoint and supporting our students behaviorally. So it will be connected to our school. We'll be able to pull reports from behavior and attendance as well. So we have a whole picture of a child when we look at them. We're able to look at, hey, we see that this student may be struggling academically. Let's look at their attendance. How are these two things related? Let's also look at the behavior. Could this all be related in the student's story? And now, how can we as a school-based team support this student moving forward so that we can improve that attendance and improve the academics and improve the behavior? Those are areas of concern. So we're very excited to embark on this journey of EduClimber and to use it to help us organize our data, because being able to organize and pull the data will save us that legwork and putting it all together, and then we'll really be able to focus more on the conversation on how we support our students who need this. So that was one of the areas I wanted to highlight in this section because I am excited about it. We're currently in the onboarding process now and building the site, and we're hoping that it will launch by the end of November. And it will also be the tool that we use to help us write our student reading plans. So next week, the elementary schools will be sharing assessment packets with parents. So they'll have, as a parent, you'll get a full packet of information on your child on their fall assessments, lots of reports and letters explaining what these are. So that will go home next week. And then we will also follow up with families with a coffee chat to explain what all of this data means and let them know if your child needs intervention, qualifies for a student reading plan, and then we will be then working with parents to write and finalize student reading plans for November. So that's kind of our quick time here when we're talking about student data from the elementary level. Any questions about that? The other thing I want to highlight, we talk a lot about assessment, writing skills development is really important as a key strategy, and it's part of 1.2. What I do want to highlight here is, this is embedded in our core curriculum. Each grade level spends at least 20 to 40 minutes, depending on the day and the lesson, focused on writing and writing skills and grammar. This has also been time specifically dedicated in the elementary master schedule. So if you were to pull up the full spring master schedule, we will see their English language arts block is broken down into various sections. So the full block is about 2 hours, but then it's broken down into phonics, writing, whole group comprehension. So there's different sections of that block to ensure that we are covering all these pieces that are so critical in English language arts instruction, specifically writing. I know that writing has been one of those areas that has not been a primary focus, but it's certainly more on the focus as we move forward with the curriculum. And then we talk a lot about assessment, and then we talk about the VALS assessment. So again, this is one of our literacy assessments that we will use for K-3 this year. For the 5th grade will be added next year. This is the assessment that determines whether or not a student receives a student reading plan. So any student that tests and their scores fall within that high risk range, they will receive a student reading plan. So next week, parents will get their VALS reports sent home to them, and it will show how whether they're in high risk, low risk, moderate, and so on and so forth. Our letter will explain that, and then we will know whether or not your student qualifies for a student reading plan. And again, we know there's a lot of information for families to comprehend just looking at it and reading through it. So we probably will again follow that up with a coffee chat to explain what the VALS data means. The already diagnostic data will also go home, so we'll also cover that within that coffee chat for parents so they can understand what the level of assessment means. And then just a quick update in terms of our fall data. We had 32 students right now who identify as high risk who qualify for student reading plans, 51 in 2nd grade, 52 in 3rd grade. So right now, we're totaling 135 students who qualify for student reading plans for this fall. So that's that is a large number of students to be support, but we are thankful that we have the data to know how to support our students. We are grateful for the resources that we have purchased to help us meet these needs for our kiddos and help us collect the data and write the student reading plans efficiently. So we're eagerly awaiting with our group members to finalize all of this. But this just is kind of a quick snapshot. So that's why I say we're developing these student reading plans, but we're going to need a little bit of time to cover 135 of those. And we certainly want to make sure we're including our parents in part of this process.
Ask a question? Do you know, Mr. Johnson, if you could just go back one slide, do you know, since the VALS is a state assessment, if the Department of Education will provide state level data to divisions to see how we measure up compared to other grade levels across the state in the same way sort of that I already did?
I'm not sure. I think it's a great question. I know on the VALS Virginia Connect site, we're unable to pull division by data and school data, but I'm not sure. I would imagine we have to finalize and have what the issue is that we may not get that data right away, but I would hope that maybe at a major point they would provide us with that. But certainly something I can advocate for in our upcoming meetings with literacy with the DOE.
Okay, so with these plans, okay, that the kids get, this is going to be extra time that we're going to provide for them in their regular classrooms to take care of.
So this is built into their master schedule already. So we have we've dedicated 30 minutes of intervention time. It's not the only time that they can get intervention. Actually, clearly, teachers are able to provide intervention as well as reading specialists. So teachers can pull them into a small group at any time during our instructional day, but we do have dedicated time in the master schedule for these 30 minutes to happen. our team built our group last week and developed our schedules, and we are able to serve all of these students within that intervention time with the assistance, with using our teachers to help provide the support and the reading specialists. To serve 135 students is a lot for just our reading specialists to do and to do it effectively. So part of the BLA does say it has to be a highly qualified instructor, so that can be a classroom teacher and or reading specialist.
Okay.
We're very excited. It's going to be a different intervention model than what our teachers were used to. I think historically, they're used to our reading specialists coming and grabbing their 5 to 6 kids, pulling them out of the classroom and going into their own workspaces to work with them. That still is happening in some grade levels, depending on the numbers. Specifically, maybe more so for 4th and 5th grade. But for these higher groups, specifically 2nd and 3rd grade, we're pushing in, and teachers will be hosting a group alongside our reading specialists will be hosting a group. So during that time, we're able to service 10 kids within one classroom and down the line. So we're able, with our current staffing and our teachers' support, we're able to cover all of this.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on?
And so this is the use of utilizing the secondary schools to highlight objective 3, increase and expand career readiness for all students. Of course, at the high school career exposure, one of the things that a high school does do is invite in guest speakers. They have their job fair. So this is an example of the job fair that they posted in the spring of last year, but having opportunities to interact with various employers as well as participate in work-based readiness skills will support our students in just exposure to those career opportunities. Also, integration with STEM and STEAM activities. One of the things that I wanted to share, and I'll go back to slide for that. One of the things that also will be taking place is the Department of Education is implementing new computer science standards. And so the classrooms will look a little bit different, and teachers will receive professional learning on how to incorporate and integrate computer science into their core content classes. It will not just be a science class where you'll experience STEM or you want to a different classroom. It will be integrated within their core content classes. Originally, with career counseling, we also have our RCC high school navigators that do go over academic and career planning with students, support them with completing scholarship applications. Support them with college applications, placement tests, as well as providing information on dual enrollment courses and opportunities that are available at the high school. So if we move on to increasing and expanding career readiness for all students, one example of that is our Virgin Communities program, as well as one of the new data collection methods for the high school as it relates to the new accountability system. And this also includes expanding our CTE offerings, our regular life 3E framework, which includes enrollment, employment, and enlistment. Several acronyms will come up. Our dual enrollment courses or our GE courses, our AP courses, or advanced placement courses. IB program is included in that, which that's not something that we offer here in P. William, but also CLEP exam, and that stands for college level examination program, where students can gain college credit for courses that they take at the high school. And so we've examined some of the courses that are available at the high school. One of the marketing courses, if we change that to principles of marketing, then students would be able to take that CLEP exam to gain college credit for that course. And backing up just a little bit, those came under the categories of enrollment. But if you think about employment and the CTE courses that we offer, students are required now to, in order to be a completer, they have to take the state-approved industry recognized credential. And so some of our students are participating in those CTE courses that lead to a credential.
So, we've kind of been over our progress towards our strategic plan in terms of goal one. So at this point, we kind of want to begin to transition to the new accountability system, for schools.
Yeah, and just to clarify, this would be item 6 on the agenda, so just sort of roll it through because we have it, if that's okay.
Yes.
Because we have it in the same slide deck, but let's pause for a minute and see if anybody has any questions. And some of what Dr. Bassett was describing, there'll be a visual support here coming up that you'll be able to see, but what we wanted to share, and I think we did this over the last several meetings, we've alluded to, and we've actually shown some of this information, but I've alluded to the new accountability system in Virginia. And this is going to be a game changer. This is a whole new set of expectations for students and for school divisions. And so we're going to try to just to share a little bit more information about that system and what we can expect in the coming year and what this means and what it looks like, but also just to try to build some deeper understanding of what it means for us. Thanks.
So in this model here, you're going to see what the Virginia the new framework has. So on the right-hand side is the new accreditation system. So they're separating accreditation and accountability. So when we begin to talk about performance and how we're measuring up as a division, really instead of accreditation and saying we're fully accredited, you're going to hear accountability a little bit more. Accreditation moving forward is really going to be focused on operational compliance. So are we meeting licensure requirements? Are we meeting our SOPs by the DOE? So that is all operational. So hopefully, yes, we're all accredited and that part is an easy check box. Whereas now we have a new performance and support framework, which is our accountability system. And the goal with the state for this is to provide a transparent lens for parents. I think in our current system, there is a notion of there's this honesty gap when we start looking at decimal pass rates and scores because we're factoring in growth. And growth is looking at a student who may have scored 330 and as a third grader, and then as a fourth grader, they come in and for 350. So they're showing some growth, and that counts as a positive for our school division. But then we look at our overall pass rates, and they're a little bit higher because of that. But then when we look at how the state is performing as a total comparatively, what we have found is that the state of Virginia is actually performing lower than most states across the board. And so that was a red flag for the DOE. They knew that we needed to begin to refine the process. So currently what they have passed here is there is a different accountability model for each of the levels of the school, so elementary, middle school, and high school. When you look at the elementary school, mastery is 65% of your overall mastery. So when you're talking about pass rate from the students past advanced or past proficient, this is a big piece of all of that for reading, math, and science. And then progress and achievement for English language learners, they all participate in access testing, and that counts towards our overall testing rates. Then we have growth, and growth is going to be looked at a little bit differently. It's not in terms of how much have you grown to pass the test, it's going to be how much growth have you shown altogether. So if I'm a student and I pass the reading test as a third grader with a 403, and then I take it again as a fourth grader and it passes with 400, I'm really not showing a whole lot of growth between third and fourth grade as a reader. With this growth category, they're looking at, if I pick the test with a third grader and I scored 450, and then I take it again as a fourth grader and I score 500, I've shown some significant growth, and now I am past advanced. So it's that growth factor. It's not just focused on our students who weren't meeting those pass rates, it's now going to focus on all of our students. So that's a different way to look at that category. And then readiness, that falls under our chronic absenteeism, so we will still be held accountable for our overall student attendance. And then the 5 C's performance task. This is one of the unknowns for us. We're still waiting to hear that a performance task would be participating in a state level performance type test. So students did the integrated reading and writing test last year. So that could potentially be one of the performance tasks that they would have to do as part of our 5%. Our third graders do alternative assessments for science and social studies, where it's a project that they complete based off of the state rubrics. That could also be a performance task. So both of those are each 5%. When you put all of them together, we will have a set of points to show us whether we're need support or off track, on track, or distinguished. And we'll talk about that all of those needs in just a few slides. Looking at middle school, theirs is slightly different. Where you see the difference is their mastery is at 60%, growth is 20%, but the readiness is significantly different, where they are including the chronic absenteeism, the performance task, but also that advanced coursework. So those are key ingredients to ensuring that when we look at the middle school, we want to make sure we are thinking about how are we offering these opportunities to our students in terms of advanced courses. Is there anything you all get that I can?
I'll add a little bit of information about 2 things. Like Ms. Davis said, growth is going to be measured differently, and growth is, it's sort of partnered with mastery. So we'll get for every student that has a prior SOL history, school divisions will be given, it may be difficult to read. See where it says reading expected growth, math expected growth. We will get a measure of what a student's expected growth is. Like Ms. Davis said, it's based on prior performance. And we'll get a point value for whether or not students are statistically close to that expected growth. And if they're far away from it, we'll get less point value. If they exceed it, we'll get more point value. So it's sort of a weighted system.
Yeah. We were talking about community growth. There's a system called VFOX, which it houses all of our student data in terms of SOLs that would provide us with that growth information for students. Parents will also get a student summary report through VFOX that will show all their history of SOLs and their growth through time. And that's something that we've been tasked with within home this fall as well. So that will be information that parents will be provided so that they understand where their child has performed in historically for SOLs and where we would want to see them perform in the spring to sugar.
Thanks, that's great. And then just a few things to clarify, not to get too far in the weeds. But I just kind of wanted to share with you, excuse me, where this system is in its development. So if you look at the category readiness for elementary school, you've got, which is 10%. Half of that is chronic absenteeism, and the other half is that performance task. Well, the performance task hasn't even been created yet. And so for next year, the readiness component will be all chronic absenteeism. So the system is still being developed, but chronic absenteeism will count more next year than it will the following year. And then if you go to middle school, under readiness, where you see advanced coursework, and this has been something that a lot of division leaders have expressed concern about, is because what that means in middle school is probably earth science. It's any high school course that a student can take in middle school. Well, some divisions are able to offer a lot more because they're close to they have access to teachers that might have certifications for that. They may have more resources to be able to do it. So there are school divisions like ours that have shared with the state level leaders, like, that might not be applied equally across all schools in Virginia. But it's still there, it's been approved by the state legislature, we don't foresee that going away. So there are implications for us to try to make sure that we have those opportunities for kids in middle school, earth science, world history, algebra, and geometry. But those are the very teachers that are difficult to find, because math and science folks are hard to come by. And so I say that to say that it's only going to be math in the coming year, but they're going to expand that to the other content areas too. So here at Hamilton Holmes, and I talked to Ms. Roser about that just a little bit today. We do offer earth science in middle school, which is great. We can hopefully expand that, but we likely only have one teacher that can do it. So then, is that going to mean that we have to add another science teacher in middle school to be able to offer some more opportunity? And then we'll have to think about, again, I'm sort of sharing with you the 1 or 2 year plan. What's the high school social studies course that we may offer in middle school? Is it human geography? Is it world law? We just got to think about all those things, because we want there to be opportunities for kids, because the more kids take advantage of that, the more points we get that helps our final grade, if that makes any sense. So I just share that to say that some of this is still being developed, but it doesn't come without concerns from lots of school divisions. But nonetheless, this is the system that we have to operate within. So we'll do it.
The high schools districts mastery changes to 50% once you're at the high school level. Readiness is 35%. If you look at the mastery or the readiness for the high school, the chronic absenteeism is there. Graduation rates are there, but that Ready for Life 30E framework that I talked about for a little bit earlier is included within that 35%, and graduation is also included for the high school at 15%. One of the things that I wanted to spend a little bit more time on was the 3E framework, because that's while we're offering courses that fit into the 3E framework model, that's an area for the high school area we will continue to look at to see what course offerings, just as Dr. Wright was talking about the advanced coursework at the middle school level. That's something that we would have to look at for the high school as well. And just to back up a little bit, thinking about the advanced coursework at the middle school, we want to make sure that we're preparing our students for success. And so they can't start in middle school with an advanced math class if they have not been on that track at the elementary level. And so, of course, many of you are aware that we do offer advanced math at the elementary level, but that places them on that path for those advanced courses once they're in middle school and in high school. Again, trying to set our students up so that they will be successful. We have to make sure that we're planning not just for middle and high school, but it starts at the elementary level. And so for the 3E framework, if we look at enrollment, this is where I talk about all of the acronyms that come into place with advanced placement, dual enrollment, IB, and then the prep courses for college credit. with enrollment and then with employment and then enlistment. I think I talked about the other two, but I didn't talk about enlistment. Now, enlistment doesn't mean that every student will have to enroll in ROTC or every student will have to plan to go into the military. What that does mean is all students will be encouraged to take the ASVAB battery test. And so what we are really going to talk to the students about ASVAB is more of a career aptitude test as opposed to a test that's getting them prepared for the military. The ASVAB test is simply going to provide them with determining their aptitude for different careers. And so it's going to provide them with that recommendation. And so this will be a little bit different the way that the points are calculated for our students at the high school. And so I'll stop and kind of see if there are any questions about that. Because of course of points, as we move on to the next slide with the performance categories, the points are how we're going to, the students will be added to determine the progress that the schools are making.
So do you think that we've had some missed opportunities by not having enough teachers to teach advanced courses in middle school so that when the children move to high school, they can continue? Because I do know that we've also had to make adjustments at the high school when it came to honors and dual enrollment. So there are kids that are missing out on that path. So what are we planning to do to help correct that course?
So I think it's in certain content areas because the middle school does offer Algebra 1 geometry, advanced math courses for our students, but we also offer earth science. So we have to look at kind of the next logical sequence, if you will, for our students here at the middle school and the courses that we can offer, but also looking at the staff that we have available to be able to offer those courses here at the middle school. And the same thing holds true for the high school. The high school added dual enrollment history class this year, but we also have dual enrollment history, dual enrollment biology, and all the other dual enrollment courses that we offer, which would fit into, and I'm saying fit into, for lack of a better word, the category because we have those dual enrollment courses at the high school. Our students who are successful, while they may not earn the associate's degree, we would get a point for those students being in the dual enrollment course, but also the credits that are attached to it.
And I think the answer to that question ultimately is yes. And this is definitely a recruitment and retention issue, because if, you know, for a high school teacher to be able to teach a dual enrolled class, that's what they call a transfer credit. And transfer credit means that it's accepted in any of the partner public colleges in Virginia. The teacher has to have a master's degree in the content area, translates to 18 graduate hours in the content area. So we could recruit a teacher to teach, I'll make up something, dual enrolled English, let's say, or dual enrolled math analysis, which would be a hard person to find. But that if that person were recruited by another school division and we lost that teacher, we've lost the program. We've lost the entire program. And this is one of the challenges with CTE as well, because of the specialty technical licenses, is that when you find someone that can offer specific CTE courses, you want to hold on to them and keep them. And we've talked about here, you know, our goal, I'd love to expand our CTE programs more.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be able to recruit and then retain those teachers. So there's a budgetary component there, which is why, you know, you heard me say we want to stay in the top third of Virginia school divisions in terms of compensation, so that folks don't have a reason. We want to create conditions where people come here and stay. and we can build the programs that we know that kids want. So there definitely is a human resources component there. I'll say here before we go, there are two things to add to this. One is that this is not an or measure. It's not a student is ready to enroll in college, or they're ready for employment, or they're ready, they've demonstrated some aptitude on an aspect. This is and so what that means is this. So if you can see, the standard in each of those categories is 1 point, right? So for every student, that student is eligible for, so 3 points per student in this category is the standard. So if we chose not to offer the ASVAB, that aptitude assessment, the most that anybody would be able to do at the high school is 2/3 of the available points. Assuming that no one, that we didn't, have that many kids that were eligible to be counted 1.25. 1.25 is for folks that are earning an associate's degree, that's tough to do in high school. Especially in our school division, because we don't have the dual offerings in-house. You have to either go to Chesapeake Bay or, potentially bridging, but you still have to get some of the transfer credits that we're not able to offer. We'd love to be able to offer all the transfer credits at the high school, math and English and history. And I think we're taking steps toward that, but we're dependent on some of our satellite programs for the full offering of an associate's degree. So I say that to say we're looking at, predominantly 1 point for each category. So it makes sense for us in the enlistment category to offer the ASVAB to every, whatever grade level we're gonna do. I don't know if we've made that decision yet, have we?
This year.
All seniors. Students, might choose not to take it. We're gonna have a marketing campaign that goes with this, but we think it'll be beneficial because students and families will learn what the career interest is and what maybe the vocational aptitude is. That's what the ASVAB is, as Dr. Bassett shared. But this is, to reiterate, this is an and, not an or. Every student is eligible to earn or to count for 3 points toward the accountability system. And we want to try to take advantage of that as much as possible, because in that graduation component that you saw, it's a pretty high percentage.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And so I'm sorry, I wanted to get rid of it so that I could provide some more data. We are starting with all seniors for the ASVAB for this year. That date has actually already been set. Information will be coming out to parents. Students will in November the 18th at high school. And so that is something that is already been funded.
Okay, so you've heard us from friends on track, off track, and points throughout the evening as we're talking about the new accountability system. So this is a graphic that kind of breaks down those points. And so if you are anywhere between below 65 points, this is where we will need intensive support as determined by DOE. So that means that we would sign an MOU with the DOE, and they would be a much more hands-on approach. 65 to 79 points is off track, and currently under the this model in last year's data, most a good chunk of school divisions are falling within this category, with it being a new accountability system. So we're going to show you how one of our schools is performing based on the new accountability system to give us an idea. But I do think it's important to know that there are, was it 60%? Is that the data point?
Yeah, I think one of the numbers floating around was a little more than half of all schools might fall into the off-track category based on spring 24 data. I heard yesterday that from the state superintendent of instruction at the workshop where I was, that it might not be that high a number, but nonetheless, and I think the difference is, and we don't have this in a graphic, but where you have roughly 80 or 85% now of schools that are fully accredited. What we're hearing is that that number might be 50% that would be sort of on track or better because of the new standards. And that's what I said earlier. We're gonna the state is gonna superimpose the new accountability system on spring 24 data so that we can see, kind of get a snapshot of where all of our schools are. The only tool that's available for school divisions right now, like Ms. Davis said, is elementary. There's a worksheet or like an Excel worksheet, spreadsheet template that the Department of Education is going to be making available to school divisions. But the only one that we have right now is elementary. We don't yet have middle and high school. So as I shared a few moments ago, this is still being constructed as we go along. But we'll want to give you a peek of where we think, things might be.
So, moving on to off track status, it does say that we will also receive additional support from BDOE, and that's one of the unknowns. We're not quite sure what that would look like yet, but I'm expecting that DOE would be sharing that information as we get closer to spring. Obviously, our goals would be to be on track or distinguished, where we're serving as role models for other schools. But this is just a kind of a quick snapshot of putting it all together and where the categories and points fall. So what does that mean for an example school? So we, with Dr. Wagner said, we had a worksheet that we went through and completed this for Fresno Elementary School, as they are our 3rd through 5th grade, as well as the elementary school. And so this screenshot here kind of breaks down our mastery index. So where we earned our point value. So we earned about 47.5 points in that index value. Our growth index was about that 14.6 points. And then our readiness, which is only finding absenteeism from spring 2024, and that will be what we use for this year, for spring 2025 with 8.7. So all of that together put us at 71 points, which is at the performance category of off track. So we're not far from being on track. We think that we can make those 8 points, hopefully by spring 2025, but given our last year's data and we look at this year, we would currently be off track, needing support from the.
You said 71%.
71 points.
And so again, here's an example of the need to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
That we just can't. I shared this today. We just can't dust off last year's plans and do the same thing this year that we've always done. We have to do something different. We've got new tools in place. We're trying to establish with our colleagues, new expectations of what this means, and letting folks know that this is the new goalpost that we have to try to reach. And so the canary in the coal mine for us is, the new system superimposed on current data, we would be 71 points in off track status. We have the rest of this year to make some headway so that by the time we get to the end of this school year, all of our student performance data is going to put us into that on track category. And from what I understand, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, this is about the time of year that these ratings are available. So even when we get through May and into June, we won't know any of this until October of 2025. So
we can make our own.
we now that we have a worksheet, like this, and this was produced by the Department of Education. We've had it not even 3 weeks. And as I shared, there's not one yet for middle school or high school, so. But we share this, I mean, this, from my perspective, and I know from my colleague, this is about as transparent as we can be. And I think we need to be, and to really accept sort of where we are and what we're doing, and I hope that the board will support our initiatives and our urgency for improvement, and just try to paint that picture for you this evening in goal 1.
Thank you.
But we're also taking really great steps
Yeah,
to make those
absolutely.
improvements. We're very excited about the things that we are doing to support our students and support our teachers through this.
I have 2 questions, from slide 13. So I know that most Virginia high schools, they're offering, the ASVAB to find the weaknesses and strengths of the academic skills of students. But they're also require parental consent to take it. Is that something we're also doing? Okay, and then who is the information shared with? Like, if they take these, is it being shared with military?
I believe that a family can check so that it's not shared.
I mean, that's why I'm asking, because when we do the school forms and Power School, it does have the option for children not to be contacted,
So
so.
option for their information to not be shared, and we actually talked about that in a meeting.
Perfect.
The parents, because all parents were notified that students will be taking the ASVAB, all of our seniors who are taking it. We talked about, generating the list of students whose families check, do not share that information. They will receive a separate letter so that we're making sure that we're respectful of their decision, that they indicated they do not want their information shared with the military. So we want to let them know. We still recognize that this is the option that we selected. And so their permission slip will ask, would you like for your student to take that as that sense?
So can a student take it though, but their information not be shared?
We're thinking that it doesn't have to be shared, but that's something that we need to clear.
Okay.
Yeah, because the school doesn't administer, the military comes in and does the whole shebang.
Okay.
So it's stored elsewhere, but we'll look in to see whether or not there is that provision, and we'll come back with that information for sure.
Okay.
But at the very least, we think it would be helpful information for a student and family, because it really is a well-known vocational aptitude assessment. It's not something that a student finishes in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a pretty comprehensive battery. And we think that might be very helpful information for lots of students. And so some of our marketing information is going to be around that. And I know that Dr. Bassett said we'll administer to seniors this year. We may look at that strategy a little later, but the student has to be 16 to take it.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of Virginia high schools are doing junior and senior classes.
Yeah, I was thinking it should be junior year, but.
So we can do that. And there still might be time for the student to make a course selection or something like that for the senior year. But I think this is yet another reason why it's important for us to look at strengthening our CTE programs.
Yeah.
Because
we'll need to get automotive back in the high school in order for them to pass that section, so.
So hopefully this information was helpful to you. It's still very preliminary, but we wanted to paint a picture of what the new accountability system looks like, but also share with you what we think our instructional programs can look like to help us fulfill goal 1. I know it's a lot of information to share, and it's a lot to absorb, and but I hope that this is what you had in mind when we were talking about getting more inside the strategic plan. Looking to see what the school division can do to fulfill our goals.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of great information. So,
And this is just all one. We got
I know.
One more.
Yeah.
Not tonight.
No, not tonight.
So really the only action item I have then from this is just, the fall assessment data. And that's it.
I'll send it to you, I'll finish the report and I'll send it to Dr. Wagner.
Do you anticipate any obstacles or anything with getting EduClimber launched by the end of November?
Our team has been fabulous.
Okay.
We've had a wonderful team, that our fifth specialist mother, she's been very active, involved in our team net. As long as we continue our meetings with them and we stay on talking, giving them their information, we should be able to launch it in November.
Good. Thank you all. Very well done. I appreciate the information.
Very nice. Hope it was helpful.
I took lots of notes. Okay. Well, do we have any matters of the board? I
Yes,
think you needed to do that part. Well, yes, you can do that here.
yes, that's
Go
where I do it. As a result of the student discipline hearing during closed session, I move that student number 51863 shall be long-term suspended for 364 days through October 3rd, 2025, and eligible for virtual learning through the Impact Program.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any additional information? Oh, yes. I'll do second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right.
Abstain.
Vita abstained. Did you want to provide an update on that opioid meeting? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm talking with, do you know, the meeting plan is the 26th?
I think so. Let's see.
I'm pulling that out of the hat.
I know.
Opioid?
Yeah,
Isn't it the 29th?
29th, is that what it is?
let's see.
You can just remind me real quick.
Absolutely. Sorry to catch
It's-
you off guard.
It's before,
I know it's before Halloween.
Oh my gracious.
So as we're looking this up, I'll share.
The 29th.
The 29th?
Yeah.
Thank you. The community may remember that we had an opioid town hall event planned for early August. But we had some inclement weather that day and we had to cancel that event. The planning team with the county has reconvened and we did that about 2 weeks ago. And we rescheduled the opioid town hall for October 29th at 6 p.m. here at Hamilton Homes. And we'll be sharing more information with all of our families about that event, but it should be a wonderful event for families and for students and members of the community. We're gonna have lots of community agencies here sharing information about the supports that they provide for families. And we'll have some presenters here to share information about opioid settlement funds that the county has received, and we're gonna try to solicit some ideas for how to invest those funds, but we're looking forward to that event on October 29th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we also have, a Parks and Rec meeting tomorrow at 6:30. At the Parks and Rec building. So anybody who would like to join, it is public. So feel free to stop by. Any other updates? No? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
so move.
Second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. And the meeting is adjourned. All right.